given that kind of a background, this is very important to understand why the conversation on menstruation, why the work on menstruation cannot be limited to just giving few products, just sharing few information, giving some basics about menstruation. So I will not be talking in detail about menstruation over here, but I'll be talking on why it is important. Because all of these discussions primarily assume that it is only women or girls who menstruate. And this also has ensured that a lot of the policies, a lot of the interventions also focus on women. So given that kind of a background, what we really need to understand is when we talk of women, there could be many types of women, as in based on what their gender and sexual expression is. So women, as in people who are born as female, assigned female at birth, and who also experience in their lifetime as being women. Then there are people who are assigned female at birth, but do not experience in particular as any gender. There are people who are assigned female at birth, but again who experience or they want to experience and they want to express themselves as males. And then there are people who are born as males and would still like to experience menstruation or periods. So all of these are different categories of gender that also need to be included, which means the conversation on menstruation and on different aspects of menstruation should go across to every other person here. It cannot be limited to few people alone. And this is very important because we are not, all the conversations are important in how people make their decisions, in how people tend to ostracize others, tend to separate others, tend to include others. So which is why this conversation has to, whenever we talk about menstruation, the conversation should not just be women, it should be towards every person. And also because a lot of people may be menstruating, may not identify as women, and a lot of people who may not identify as women may already be menstruating, and people who do not have bodies which can menstruate would still want to experience menstruation. So given all of these, it is very important that menstruation is taken in a very serious aspect, because this gender is a one very serious intersection that we need to consider, and also when it comes to education, because traditionally, apart from what I said, school education is what I talked about, and this a lot of people still wonder, how much should we talk about menstruation? Should this still be taught in schools? And this is a very important mandate given in the ᴄʟɪᴍᴜᴜ Karyakram, which is the central government's policy for adolescents, which means the teenagers. And that has also mandated that menstrual education be given to each and every single child, irrespective of their gender. So given this, it is very important that we have these conversations, we include these conversations, and we take this whole conversation to every person. No person should be left out. Apart from this, when it comes to public places also, we see that, even in cases of puberty function, or when we just talk about periods, it's still, very hushed, or just like, just on the day of the function, we have a lot of conversations, or periods is seen as something appropriate or normal, but beyond that, this conversation doesn't go in that way. And this is relevant even in today's time. So when you need to really think about the intersection of education, the gender, and then when you think about education and gender, it doesn't stop with that. It also is important, as I said, the kind of public spaces that we talked about menstruation. It also includes the different geographies where people are coming from. For example, very vulnerable areas like coastal areas, people who are living in or near the forest, areas which face a lot of disasters, rural areas, urban slums. So all of these have different needs, different problems, different challenges, So the intersection of geography also needs to be brought in here. Apart from this, the health is also another intersection that needs to be very closely seen, because it's not just people who whenever we have all these conversations, all the information booklets, whatever happens, all of it discusses one, females, women, and mostly girls and women who are educated, and also mostly girls and women who are either rural or semi-urban, or urban. So it has to even go beyond that and also consider other health issues, including health or differences in their body right from birth, including disability, physical disabilities, uh, children who are in the autistic and other mental illness spectrum, also issues, also not trivialized issues which are seen as irregular periods or excessive bleeding or low bleeding right from their teenage years. So from all these aspects, it is important to understand that when we talk about menstruation, it is not limited to just women menstruating once every 28 days, women bleeding once every 28 days. That doesn't really put across the whole vibrancy, um, the whole ecosystem that menstruation involves. So we have to really think about, I don't think whatever my there is a slight technical glitch, so I cannot show my slides, but I think whatever I've written on this board here also is not visible. So I'll just repeat these. The intersections, primarily the intersections that I already spoke about are gender, geography, health, education. Okay, so apart from this, we also need to really consider the economics, because when you talk about menstruation nowadays, all the conversations primarily involved on products, which I said has to be extended to all these other aspects.
Hello. Sorry, it seems to be a technical glitch. Let me try to resolve it. Sorry for the inconvenience. I am in touch with Kavya, but seems to have a technical glitch from her end. Please do wait for a couple of minutes.
Really sorry, guys. There was some technical error from my side. Really sorry about it. So I'm back to discussing. I guess I'll just need a few breaths. Just getting the internet something. Yeah. So as I was telling you, the whole aspect of sustainable menstruation and why it has to, all the conversation needs to focus on sustainable menstruation is very important, that we all understand that there are a lot of intersections which have to definitely be taken into consideration. You cannot be really working on menstruation just focusing on the fact that menstruation, or going by the definition, the regular textbook definition, that menstruation is something that happens to women every 28 days. It just cannot be that, and which is why the whole intersection of population, the whole intersection of areas which are getting affected, all of this also needs to be covered in our policies. So where I was talking about a lot of these intersections which are directly applicable to humans, but beyond that, these intersections are also we need to be including one more intersection, which is what we could call as climate or environment or earth or nature, whatever. So all of these intersections which I discussed earlier, when it comes in tandem with the aspect of climate, that is when we are really being very inclusive, when we are being very intersectional in understanding and addressing the aspects of menstruation. So I've been giving such a long introduction because I've been really wanting to put across my point as to why sustainable menstruation itself should be the key focus of all the kind of policies that we have, all the kind of program interventions that we do, all kind of funding and projects that going in the aspect of development, in the aspect of women empowerment, health, public health, disaster management, etc. Because every time menstruation is seen as an issue, the whole focus goes on to distributing few disposable pads and stopping at that, or making sure that there are few pads whose ads are coming on TV, and there is some discussion maybe in some schools, some textbooks, and that's it. So it cannot be that, because right from people who are at the top deciding the policies, ensuring how to implement them, till the last person who needs their menstrual needs to be fulfilled, everyone should be in the loop, everyone should be seriously considering all these aspects. So which is why I've been putting across the fact that despite the kind of variations in variations and intersections of the kind of environment that we have, the kind of people that we have, the kind of needs that we have, sustainable menstruation as a theme, as a topic across its various intersections need to be really seen. So this is very important, because ever since the discussion about menstruation has become slightly mainstream, all of it has been promoted by large companies, large corporates, primarily MNCs, who have been manufacturing disposable pads. So when I say disposable pads, it's what we generally call as sanitary pads or napkins. Right, I guess it's visible. Yeah. So whatever we generally call as sanitary pads or napkins is what I'm referring to as disposable pads, because these are one-time use and throw products. So ever since, and there is some history to it, because ever since the World War happened, and then after World War, there was a lot of cotton, a lot of cottony material which was left around, and which again had to be sold out. There were companies after the war ended, there were no more wounded people, so they had to make some product. They had to ensure that there was some market, and and that is exactly how people moved away from using cloth and went into where slowly pushed into using these kind of single-use disposable pads. And this is very important for us to know that these are not just products which cause health hazards, they're also causing a lot of environmental concerns. So to put it off in a very simple way, so again, I don't have my slides, so just telling you, there are few things that everyone should keep in mind. I think a lot of us know that these are carcinogenic because they contain plastic. 90% of these pads are plastic, so they are carcinogenic, which means they can cause cancers. But beyond that, cancer is one aspect which is there, which is a huge factor of concern for every one of us in our environment, is so much filled of plastics. Because even July 1st, just few days back, half a month has just passed. On the 1st of July, there was a government mandate to stop using single-use plastics all over India, and it's not even being seen in practice. So given that, plastics is so much in our environment, we cannot really avoid the potential risk of, having carcinogenic products around us. But we need to also understand what other risk factors we have from these kind of disposable pads. These also include, again, for the lack of my slides, I'm just going to say so that it's easier for communication and not using any slides here. So these pads have, a lot of people who have used it will know that these have fragrances. So whatever I'm saying here is not just limited to the disposable pads. Whatever has plastic, whatever has fragrance, whatever has the gel in it, or the magic gel or the super absorbent gel, all of these can cause a lot of health issues, right from cancers to infertility issues to hormonal imbalances and rashes on the skin. So all of these are very serious health issues, and which we need to really focus on, not just from the point of health, and I'm not saying that health is not important, but also to know that these products don't affect us just during the time of use, but they also affect us even after they are disposed. And this is where the key importance of making sure these products are not around us. It's because once we use these products, we throw them away. You see them in all kind of places, on the road, in water bodies, in landfills, wherever, because once we put it in the waste basket, there really is not an away for these products. So given that this is how these products are being treated at present, we need to understand that these products remain in our atmosphere, remain in our environment, remain in our ecosystem, which means that they have something known as persistence, which means they remain in the environment and still affect us. So after using, or even before using, while being manufactured, right from the point that these products are being manufactured till the time they stop to exist, which means some 500 to 800 years, these can affect each of us. Each of us, people who are using the pads, people who are not using the pads. So which is why we need to really understand the conversation around menstruation cannot be limited to these products. And it's not just pads alone. I guess everyone would be aware of tampons. You can see it, something like this, looks like a small piece of chalk. So tampons are also similar. They also have similar health hazards associated. And given that these are there's a huge amount of health risks associated with these products, and also the fact that giving them once or twice, or say given the current policy of the government is to give free pads to girls, right from their puberty till they complete school. But what after that? So we really don't have a discussion about that. So, which is why this is the whole issue of sustainability really doesn't limit to product alone. It limits to who you are giving these products to. That is the gender factor, the health issues. So you're giving something to the regular public, you need to also understand if it can be used by people who have physical disabilities, mental disabilities, people who have other health issues. So that is another issue to be tackled over here. The geographical factors need to be tackled over here. The environmental factors need to be tackled over here. And the economical factors also need to be considered over here, because these products on an average cost anything from 70 or 80 rupees to 100 rupees or 200 rupees a month, depending on the kind of brand that you want to buy. So assuming it's around 100 rupees per month, and comparing it, it's like it's an additional expense to people who menstruate. So which is why the economical factor also needs to be considered here. So given that there are a lot of intersections that we need to really consider and focus on when we design a project on menstruation, the whole idea about sustainability here focuses on two different aspects. One is that there should be an informed choice, and to make informed choice, there should be a component on education. So when you talk about sustainable menstruation, I'll definitely tell you it's not just about products, and I've been talking a lot of introduction about all these intersections, because I really want you to focus on that. It is not just product, it is also about this knowledge that it cannot be one intersection, it cannot be one product, it cannot be one place, it cannot be one type of person. It has to be all the policies that come out, all the programs that come out, all the funding that is being granted should definitely not focus on products alone. Instead, they should be focusing on issues ranging from educating the public, educating the policy makers, educating the implementers, whoever is at the end process of this whole distribution system. Everyone should be educated about what options are available and why all of these are important. And people should also be educated about what next and how to make the choice. So when you think about choice, I'll definitely need to talk to you about the products which we primarily include when we talk about sustainability in menstruation. So the whole idea is that people have been traditionally using cloth or a lot of different products, varying from grass, leaves, moss and lichens in very cold places, charcoal in some places, sand in some places, and none of these can be unilaterally dismissed as being uneducated, being uninformed. And this is also important because in the recent years, we've been tending to say that women from rural areas or women in general are uneducated about their health, and hence they use old cloth, hence they use cloth, hence they use grass, hence they use leaves, moss, charcoal, sand, all of these options. So this whole idea, when you talk about sustainability in menstruation, it is also going beyond what options we have to offer, and also understanding what options a community uses traditionally, and understanding if that can be if that is sustainable, promoting and supporting them. So there are also people who do not use any products and end up directly free bleeding. So even that also is an aspect of sustainable menstruation. That's also an aspect which is perfectly fine. So this whole idea of sustainable menstruation in a larger context has to be about making informed choices and having awareness. This is way above, this is way beyond just products which are reusable. This is definitely way beyond going, and saying, let's give menstrual cup to every woman out there. And I'm saying this because I'm assuming all my audience over here have some basic idea about sustainable menstruation, have some idea about menstruation, understand that disposable pads have a lot of health hazards, environmental hazards associated with it, and are definitely looking forward to using sustainable menstruation approaches to design projects to implement in their area of work, in their geographical location, etc. So, which is why this whole whatever discussion we've been going to, I just saw that you could put your questions in the chat. So I'm just also repeating that. Any queries, you can put it in the chat. So this is all this discussion that I'm doing, or all this information that I'm giving, is going beyond a regular discussion on sustainable menstruation, where I would be telling you all about menstruation and why not to use disposable pads, and what all are the reusable options available, how to use, what to use, when to use, and all that. So this whole idea here is to focus on all practitioners, activists, social workers, educators, program implementers, all of you who are here, and give you this understanding right from field, to help you understand that this whole discussion has to be about informed choice and awareness. Awareness is not unilateral. It is not for the beneficiaries alone. Awareness is also for all of us who want to make an intervention in this area, and to understand that local practices, local discussions, even if it may sound uneducated or may sound orthodox to you, may have value in it. So understand and respect what a community is traditionally using. Understand and respect if they need to change, and if they need to change, to what product they need to change, and how to help that transition happening. And if they are using a different product from what they've been traditionally using, how to help them move into something else if they need. So, and I'm always saying if they need, because the beneficiaries should definitely be taken into consideration. The informed choice part here is very important, because I cannot be deciding what you should use, and it's a very simple fact, because it has all the choice of product comes from all these intersections, which I said, which I went into detail in the beginning, the intersections on gender, environment, economics, education, social factors. All of these are very, very health. All of these are very important to finally decide what product a person would use. So as a person who is implementing projects, who is deciding programs and projects on in this area, as a climate change mitigation solution, or as a solution for empowering people, as a solution for public health, public health intervention, all of you need to really understand this whole focus need to be across all these intersections. And definitely, as a person who is bringing a project or who is designing a project, you should be really ready to do this learning, to have this learning, not just looking into journals, looking into articles and content available from book and internet, but also listening to the beneficiaries, understanding what they would want to use. So that is the awareness and the informed choice. Finally, the beneficiary has to decide what they will be using. And this is very important, because of late there's been, especially post-COVID, there's been a lot of focus on menstrual cup as the ultimate choice. While right now I'm living in Kerala, so it is, it rains around 8 to 10 months in a year, which means it is very difficult for me as a person who practices free bleeding, or to even use cloth, because of difficulty in getting my product, the cloth, or even if I free bleeding to my breast, it's very difficult for those products to get dried easily. But if it's a person who's living in a place where there is less water, their struggles would be different. And if somebody is having their religious concerns or social concerns, to not use a product which is insertional, um, while we may say it's not a problem to use an insertion product, even for teenagers, using tampons or menstrual cups is not at all a problem. While I'm saying that as a matter of fact, it cannot be something that is pushed onto someone. But these are factors wherein you are telling people what can be the what all can be the options, but not pushing a certain option on them. So, which is why I would always start with cloth as a reusable option, and I'm saying cloth because from among the different traditional options such as grass, leaves, moss, lichen, and sand, which I know, and charcoal, which I know, which I've heard people say, I haven't used any of these. So I always start with cloth. So cloth which is old is also fine. So a lot of people think old cloth is unhygienic. That's not the case. It has to be a natural material like cotton or jute, and it has to be soft, definitely, and it has to be free of any fungal infection on it. That's it. That is all the requirement that is there. And as much as possible, if you can use undyed cloth, that is uncolored cloth, that would be a better option. And this is the only requirement for cloth. You don't have to consider if it is old. You don't have to consider even if it has blood stains on it, it is perfectly fine. Blood stain is just color. It's like, when you apply turmeric, when you cut or apply turmeric, there will be some yellow stain even after you wash away the turmeric paste. The stain doesn't give any properties of the turmeric, it's just color. So similarly, the blood stain doesn't, it cannot let any bacterial infection or fungal infection to grow over it. It's just color. So even stain is perfectly fine. But drying in natural sunlight to a large extent can reduce the stain. So it is more about talking about the practice of directly drying these used cloths, used undergarments in the sun. And it's more about the practice, the traditional practice, than about the stain on the cloth. So these are the few nuances also which I think any practitioner should be willing to understand, should be willing to put themselves in a slightly difficult, slightly uncomfortable position and understand from the community side as to what and why they are preferring or practicing a certain thing. Another definitely an improvement on the cloth, because cloth moves and cloth is old, so it may be very thin, so there can be very less absorption. So in that case, we have options of cloth pads, and I'll be showing you a few products. So this is a cloth pad with buttons to ensure that the cloth pad doesn't move away, and also there is a plastic lining inside to ensure that there is no staining, and this pad actually can be opened up like a towel. Yeah, and then there is another pad that I would like to show you, which looks like a disposable pad in its shape. That's made of pure cotton. Slightly bigger one, and this is made of banyan cloth. Another model of cloth pad wherein there's like a jacket, and then you have towels which can be inserted, and after one towel is wet, you can remove it. You can remove the second towel, and then maybe you can put in another towel. You can put in a new fresh towel and then keep on using the same one. This is another one. This is another product modeled on that, but instead of having a towel, it's just stitched up insert like a pad inside this jacket. Then there are ones made of fleece, then made of microfibers with plastic buttons. some more carbon footprint, but then the ones made of acrylic cloth. So there are different varieties of cloth sanitary napkins itself, and all of them, like cloth, just needs to be dried in sunlight. And then another cloth product would be cloth period panties. So these are panties which are, which have padding in them to ensure that it doesn't leak onto your dress. You can even take out these insert and then still there is some more padding inside it. There are these interlabia pads which doesn't go inside your body like a menstrual cup, but it's kept in between the labia. So a lot of these cloth products are also available. So I'm not going into the details of how to use them, but I'm just trying to tell you that a lot of options are available for us. And as a practitioner, you don't really have to be focused on having one or two products or having just saying that, how do you give options? How do you ensure that the informed choice happens? Because there are multitude of products, even when it comes to cloth. And then menstrual cups, they come in different shapes, different sizes. And here I would like you to see that there's one with a very long stem. There's one with a very small stem over here, very tiny stem. And there's one without a stem. So these are three different variations in the shapes. And also, I don't know how much you'll be able to understand. So, you can see that there is, I'm not able to immediately fold it. I need some time to fold it because it's a very hard cup. And this has medium hardness. It's easier, it's more easy. And then there's one more which is very easy for me to fold. So in terms of the hardness, like soft, medium, and hard, in terms of the length of the stem, in terms of the length of the stem that they have, there are certain variations, and in terms of sizes, like from small to large, there are different sizes of menstrual cups. So all of these, there is variation when it comes to cups also. I'm not going to give you a detail about how to what.
To cut you off, Dr. Amy, could you just please?
Yeah.
Dr.
So
Amy?
when it comes to cups also, we have a lot of varieties. We have a lot of size options, hardness options, the variety with respect to the stem length. A lot of options are there. Just two things to very much underline. A menstrual cup cannot take away anybody's virginity if there's something like that. And menstrual cup is safe for use even among teenagers. And menstrual cup is not the only reusable healthy alternative. And I'm saying this again and again because a lot of our discussions, a lot of our projects, a lot of our discussions today have been focusing, when we talk about sustainable menstruation, all the conversations have been just about giving menstrual cup. We've moved away from just using disposable pads and giving menstrual cups to women. That's it. Few pilot projects here and there, and we are expecting one of the big MNCs to take it up and commercialize it. So when it comes to projects or programs that all of us here, practitioners here or activists here, climate leaders here, implement when it comes to sustainable menstruation, the focus should be on understanding all the intersections that comes to menstruation. Just again repeating all the intersections, almost all the intersections that I can think of: the education, gender, health, social aspects, geographical aspects, disabilities, and economics. All these aspects need to be considered, and the project practitioners should definitely put a component for educating themselves and educating the community who they are serving, and definitely inform about all the options that are there. Even though we say that reusable options are the best, if somebody needs to definitely use disposable options, that we should be ready to also let that happen, even though that's not what I would ideally teach. Given that you are focusing on informed choice to ensure that there is sustainability in your intervention, to ensure that you are not forcing something on someone, you should also be ready to do that. And then definitely focus on this multitude of reusable options, from cloth and menstrual cup to all the traditional options, right from using grass and charcoal and sand, or even up to free bleeding. So the whole idea of sustainable menstruation and why it can work, because it's not just about saying that in coastal areas there's a lot of flooding, so let's give them all menstrual cups. It's easier. Yes, it may be, but they may also have religious concerns. But when it comes to a forested area, that could be a different option. When it comes to slum area, they could have a different option. Privacy of bathrooms, all of these need to be considered, and hence sustainable menstruation is primarily an issue of focusing on understanding the intersections and making educated and making well-aware choices, which is healthy and beneficial for every person, every last person who is to be included. So thank you, and I think I don't know if this was a very comfortable way of conveying things to you, but then yeah, I have taken the session a very different way from what I generally do, because I kind of felt that it is very important to not get redundant and help people understand why they still need to focus on sustainable menstruation, because now people have been thinking that menstrual cups are here and that they are the savior when you talk about menstruation, so give it to just few girls or women and then that's it. And I'm saying this also in the wake that in the wake of a lot of government projects now focusing on just giving few menstrual cups to women and forgetting about that. So the whole intersection needs to be considered, and that is how you design a project to address menstruation and specifically sustainability.
That was nice and indeed very not so conventional presentation from my end. It's my experience. It's pretty with the products you have seen it lively, and you will get an experience how it is working, right? So it's not a conventional presentation kind of thing. It was very much indulging, and it was a good experience for me. So if anyone has any questions, please do ask it in the chat box. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw one comment in the chat box from Lakshmi. So yeah, I think for the benefit of all the participants here, I would also, this was something I wanted to say earlier. So I had shown you some 9 or 10 different types of cloth pads. So Lakshmi, who has written that message in the chat box, she is the founder of ᴄɪᴛဃ cloth pads, and ᴄɪᴛဃ and ecofem. These have been the two pioneer cloth pad brands in India. Okay, and to also help you understand what they have done differently and why this whole concept of cloth pads are actually grown in India. A lot of organizations have either taken their guidance and mentorship or have copied their designs and brought out their own cloth pads. So I'll just show you this. When ᴄɪᴛဃ does their kind of intervention, they understand the community, they work with the community, they find out what is appropriate for the community, and hence, and after that, they give the products to the community. So this is a bag which is like, it's an information kit. There's a girl over here and there's a boy over here, and they have the whole puberty talk. and not just with youngsters, right from youngsters to everyone in the community. And they help them understand about their body, about what products to use. And this is, again, so Uger works in Rajasthan, so this is their educational material. So I'll just like to share. This is a girl, female body, this is a male body. So it opens up and you can see how the female body transitions. And this has been done right in the 80s, early 80s. And then similarly for the male body. So I actually got this from Uger. And they also have their reproductive, in detail reproductive organs. They also talk about the health aspects, emotional aspects, talk in detail about menstruation, wet dreams, etc. It's a very informative book. And then they also have a diet chart, like green, foods that are green in color and their uses, foods that are white in color, foods that are red or orange in color and their uses. And they also have the spin wheel showing us the menstrual cycle. This bleeding is happening here. And then when I change it, you can see the different stages of menstruation. The uterus wall getting thickened up, the uterus getting full, and then again reaching the menstrual phase or the bleeding phase. So different kind of educational material has been there, has been made by Uger and also by ᴄɪᴑᴇᴜᴜ. And these kind of information is also definitely important. So when I was talking about the informed choice, it's one aspect. And I think Lakshmi was also talking about free bleeding. So the whole idea that sustainable menstruation is about menstrual cups, it's about giving few products. So just want to move away from that and understand that there are practices where you don't even rely on a product. And I've been an advocate of free bleeding for the last 3 years, 4 years now, nearly 4 years, I guess, yeah. So how much these educational material cost? Okay, there is somebody called Jasminda who from Jatin who has raised their hand. Maybe you could ask them if they are from Jatin Sansthan, which is the parent organization for Uger pads. Jasminda, would you want to answer that question? I don't know what the cost.
Hi, Kavya.
Yeah.
Hi, Kavya. Actually, I have a question. Yeah. So since we are talking about, sustainable menstruation, a lot of organizations are working on, advocacy of sustainable products. But what I want to know is how much the organizations are pushing up for a change on policy level, national policy level regarding the waste management of, the sanitary pads and all. So is there, any provision in the waste management rules and, how much this work is happening?
Yeah, so we have the updated solid waste management rules, which only say that you need to, and it talks about the disposable pads, wherein you need to fold them properly, put them inside paper, fold them, and put a red dot on it. And Swatch, an organization based in Pune, who had started the red dot campaign. So you go to their website, you can also see the red dot needs to be not a small dot, but a big one, the size of your palm. Yeah. You put a very big red dot, which ensures that the waste collectors, they know to separate. So, but then what happens beyond that is still very difficult.
Yeah, so there is a provision of, separate segregation of sanitary pads in the national waste management handling rules?
I couldn't understand your question. Can you
I'm saying on a policy level, is, sanitary pad or menstruation products are being treated as a separate commodity. Like, we have organic, okay. Like, we have organic segregation and segregation of non-organic products. That are the two things that we
So we have just wet and dry waste being segregated.
Yes,
that's
wet and dry waste. So do you think,
so
organization?
Wet and dry? No, like Lakshmurti also said, they are. It's not seen as. They are in yellow bags too. Yeah, Satya is also here, so maybe Satya can also give you more information on that.
Yeah. So my question was that is menstruation, being it should be seen as a separate segregation thing or not?
No. It's not seen as a separate one as of now. It is being collected as part of our household waste. So just just for these people who collect the waste, just for them to understand, the Safai Karamcharis or the people who are collecting the waste, just for them to understand that this is sanitary pad, and not to open them again to see what's inside. You put the red dot. That's it.
Yes.
They're not doing. So they in Kerala, there had been a proposal to treat these as biomedical waste or biomedical hazardous waste. But then that didn't take up because one, it's difficult to collect these separately, because these waste come from households primarily. And second is the biomedical waste treating facility as such is they are already running out of their capacity, so they are finding it difficult even to include hospital waste. So they are not very keen on doing this. Also, it's pretty expensive. Very expensive. So that's not really happening. And
so do you think we should push for that? Do you think we should push for this kind of an initiative, all the organizations for treating the...
So I would also like to tell you, a lot of us here are also part of different national groups, campaigns such as Green the Red campaign, and then MHM India Collective, and different independently organizations have done, and even as a collective also we've done similar campaigns in the past, and we'll definitely be happy to take up these initiatives further. And especially given that on July 1st, the government had made a single-use plastic ban, maybe this could be a time when we need to look at it.
Okay. Thank you, Kavya.
Sure. There's one more person who's raised their hand, Rajeshri.
Hi, Kavya. Thank you for the very informative talk. And I had a question, but before I ask my question, I just wanted to add to what just now the lady said. I think it was Jasminder or and so the point that she mentioned was a very good point about organization or authorities having some kind of mandatory or having some kind of mandatory push to the for the waste management as well as the production of environment friendly sanitary products, because I'm a menstrual educator who works in a small locality, and I found that even though we go and we recommend use of sustainable products, using these disposable sanitary products is the easy option and the cheapest option, because plastic, right? So it is cheap. So even though we go and we donate sustainable products, later the next day or the next time people still go and buy the usual disposable products, and the same, it's like a vicious cycle, right? So somewhere I think there are a lot of distributed efforts going on towards creating this awareness and pushing people or inspiring people to use sustainable products. But I think as you both very rightly said, we need to get together and somewhere bring that push to the authorities to bring that change and make that happen, because usually in countries like India, it's usually the crying baby gets the milk, right? So until we
definitely
get that milk.
Rakshi, just wanted to add one point, that is while I understand and I acknowledge that it might be difficult to get somebody to commit to using a reusable product, I think in the long run reusable products are easier to use, and also cheaper to use. So
Absolutely.
I think as part of the conversation, as part of the education that's happening, maybe you could also take some more help to understand how to, really help communicate this positioning that sustainable or reusable options are actually more sustainable because they can be, used for a longer time. They are cheaper and they are definitely easier to use. So
Yes.
that conversation and the way in which it's also being conveyed is also very vital, very important here. So I think that is also one aspect which we could definitely, share resources on, help understand, and work more on.
Yeah, sure. So coming to my question, Kavya, like I said, I work with mostly, I go and conduct sessions with government school students who are mostly from underprivileged backgrounds, economically or socially. So there are also situations where we have floods and there are a lot of women who are, under a shelter somewhere who might need supplies. So for both of the cases, the easiest option they go for, or people who are donating sanitary products, are the disposable pads. Now, what options do we go for? Forget about the flood situation. For the usual government school girls who have to stay there, at the school at least for 8 hours, and who might want to play, participate in sports and dance and whatnot. So the only two options that I could see was menstrual cups and pads made out of bamboo fiber and banana fiber and such things. But there, the cost becomes the challenge for me, because whenever we go and ask for funds from any NGOs or anything, I'm a one-man army, so I need funds. I can't do it all on my own. So when we go for funds, the cost becomes a challenge, because compared to the plastic disposable pads, the environment-friendly ones are costlier. So how do we mitigate that? Any suggestions?
Yeah. So very simply, to answer it in very brief, what I would suggest is definitely these conversations cannot happen overnight. Okay, so these conversations need to go on repeatedly, and especially in disaster cases like because cyclones and floods, these happen usually around same time of the year. Say if something's happening in December, have the conversation at least by April, May. Right, you prepare the entire team to move it. You can't do this right in the wake of disaster. Similarly, for schoolgirls also, when you're having these conversations, you need to maybe give few products free. Maybe there will be few people who are willing to initially try it out, handhold them, support, and definitely ensure they are the ones who are then talking. It's not us. So that is also a very important part of this work. While we might have learned something, we would want to share it. Beyond the hand holding should be to ensure that sustainability also comes in terms of ownership of this information being shared, ownership in the choice being made. And it's like something like, 5 girls have tried, maybe 2 of them are interested. Let 2 of them be the advocates. Let them start telling and training the others, and that would be a more sustainable option. And I'm seeing a lot of other, yeah.
Kavya, Lakshmi Murthy want to ask you.
Lakshmi ji, please. Yeah.
I'm responding to Rajshree's, the discussion that she just initiated. See, Rajshri, for many years now, we've been teaching young menstruators how to make their own cloth pad. We've been doing this for a very, very long time. So we're happy to do some, an online class for you, if you will. And DIY works very well, because you can make cloth pads from your own old cloth. You can make cloth pads from cotton cloth. And just to share with you that even many government programs have supported our DIY work in Northeast, 4 states in Northeast, in Chhattisgarh, in MP, Bihar. See, efforts for sustainable menstruation have been happening for a long time, because that is, I've been in this work for really a long time. Kavya, in fact, calls me pad grandma, and so it's just a lot of newer people are coming in, and to them I would just say, look at all these options, and when you're stuck for funds, just ask your your audience, people whom you're talking to, people whom you're addressing, ask them to bring their old cloth from home, and then you can teach them how to make a cloth pad.
Okay.
And like Kavya said, in our experience, it's very, very difficult to, conversion is very difficult. For a generation that has completely and only used disposable options, it's very hard for them to switch to reusable. But we have to keep the flag high and keep going. And at the government level, we've been lobbying forever. We've been lobbying forever for reusable options like cloth. But what happens is that it's politically motivated. And once you've bought a reusable product, you don't need to buy another product for a while. So there are no kickbacks in a reusable product. So obviously in larger programs, people are looking for kickbacks. So that's the reason why it is more and more difficult to implement reusable products. But having said that, now we are trying to make it mandatory, to make informed choice central when you're addressing audiences. And just to also share with you that we have a cloth pad collective where 5 organizations, there's Gunj, there's Ecofem, there's Jatan, there's the Menstrual Health Alliance of India, then there's the PAD project. We are all banding together and we've been campaigning for a very, very long time, but change will happen. And just to also, my last comment is that because the media narrative has to change. Media has made us believe that cloth is bad and disposable is the only good option. So that once that narrative changes, I think a lot of things will fall into place. Sorry, I just spoke a little too much.
Thank you so much. Is there a way I could connect with your team in case I need any guidance, please?
Yeah, please. I've put the email ID on the chat box. You can just take it from there.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Kavya.
Sure. I think Lakshmi has very kindly put her email address over here, and I would really encourage everyone to write to her, because as she said, yeah, I do really call her the pad grandma, because she's been working in this field since a very long time, designing products, designing educational material, and sharing all this information to so many people free of cost. So I think that's also the information has been so valuable, so much of it, and then she, none of it is copyrighted. It's all copyleft, as she says. A lot of these information is also available on their website. So I think it would be great to have a look at those. Satya had also put a message saying the yellow bags. Maybe would you want to talk about the yellow bags, Satya?
Yes. So where it's not direct, but we had Connects of Connect who had been participatory of the extended producer responsibility discussions at various levels. And one of the challenges
just a moment. I'll just say what EPR or extended producer responsibility is. In one line, what it means is the manufacturers or the producers of the disposable products, they have a responsibility to ensure that the waste caused by their products is not a problem. So that's what is meant by extended producer responsibility.
Yep, thanks for that, Kavya. So when we engage with industries who are producing these use and throw pads, what happens is that they ask, like, we are ready to change, but let government tell us what is the right codification. So when somebody sees that green means vegetarian, red means, non-vegetarian, like kind of codifications, they also wanted to follow one theme across India, because they cannot manufacture a sanitary pad with one code in Sikkim versus another code of color in Tamil Nadu. So they said, like, according to solid waste management rules, it's also dicey, as Kavya said. They are talking about bodily fluids, biomedical hazard, not in terms of the discharge, but if it remains in the soil unattended and things like that. So they are saying, like, LO is something defined, but now that's an appropriate scheme to follow. But at the ground level, for segregation from the medical arena, which is like hospitals and others, they follow the yellow bags. because it may contain bodily fluids and stuff like that. But from the domestic waste perspective of it, people should follow yellow. But what happens is that it is a much easier way to codify it as red so that people don't touch it. And wherever door-to-door collection is predominantly available, they use it. So there are two ways in which it has been viewed. One, what the rule says, and what makes sense on the ground. So it is kind of little dicey there. But if we all as organizations come together and say like, hey, we are going to do this, irrespective of domestic waste as a sanitary pad or somebody discharging it from hospitals, we want it in this color, then there might be a larger buy-in, is what is my thought process.
Yeah, that's great. And I think to add on to this discussion, I would also like to talk about a company called Pad Care Labs based in Pune, I guess. They also have an option of handling or managing the used pad. I don't know what's the right word to say, so which is exactly why I said handling or managing, because they treat it and make it into they separate the different parts of the pad and then recycle different parts of the pad. So like recycle paper, etc. They've made. So that is one option, but I'm just saying this for the sake of awareness. People can check out that organization, see what's happening and all of that. But again, this is something that's not possible in a large scale. So which is why, like what Satya now said, we need again some kind of a codification, some kind of a rule that has to happen. And even in terms of some newer products called biodegradable, oxo-degradable, and biodegradable and oxo-degradable pads. The ᴄʟɪᴍᴜ, whatever is coming from the government is oxo-degradable, which means there will still be microparticles left in the environment. And in case of biodegradable pads, we still haven't found really good ones that does degrade if you put them in your compost, because or at the max you can put it in your garden, be it a terrace garden or an actual garden, whatever. So it has to compost in one of these situations. The ones that we currently have ideally gets composted in industrial composting situations. So which means that again, you need to have a separate waste collection mechanism and a dedicated composter, which again kind of defeats the whole purpose or makes it very complicated. So people end up throwing their used biodegradable, oxo-degradable pads also into the regular waste that goes into the landfill. So which is why I think the whole conversation on one side about education and giving informed choice, and on the other side, the policies and everything from the government has to be definitely based on awareness and informed choice. But on the other side, it is also responsibility of all of us individuals to also, as much as possible, reduce the kind of disposable products that we use, and secondly, to separate at source or do source segregation. Because when we say why is the government not doing it and all of it, it is very difficult because India is a huge country. India is a highly tropical country. So that's not a very right environment to easily decompose or degrade these used products. And also our population is very huge. We don't have a lot of such free space to handle these. We don't have free space to contain all the chemicals that come out of these pads. So which is why it is also very important for all of us to educate ourselves and everyone around us, and to ensure that these people also educate people around them to ensure that these kind of disposable products are not being used. Because decentralized systems is what will actually work. That is what is actually sustainable. Having one centralized system from the government to take all the pads and then manage them or degrade them is not something that is going to be possible, not just for India, for even for any developed country. That this is a problem even there. So even when we say there are few organizations or few systems where you can decompose or degrade these pads, even that are very energy intensive. They can also release a lot of chemicals, and they are also pretty expensive. So it is part of our responsibility also as as people who live on this planet, to commit ourselves to educating ourselves and sharing this education and ensuring that we do our source segregation. We definitely reduce our the consumption of single-use products. Yeah, pad gallows.
So do we have any further questions?
So I just want to just add about one line about free bleeding, because when I said about this whole part about being responsible from our own side, I think that's very important, because not just this, any kind of climate solution that we come up with, any kind of public health agenda we come up with on a large scale, needs to have a commitment from every single individual for it to actually happen. And which is why it is important to also understand that, all of these conversations, all of these products, especially products as it is, when they accumulate, there is a commercial angle to it. There is a manufactured need, even when we may not need a certain product is being advertised, and we are feeling the need to buy and use it. So it is definitely up to us to ensure where we draw the line, to understand where we draw the line, to ensure what we actually need versus, ensure we know what we actually need versus what is seen as a luxury or as something that's just being purely marketed or a manufactured need. And in this context, free bleeding is a concept wherein, so free bleeding is a concept wherein you just bleed into your own dress. So people all over the country, people have been either bleeding onto their dress, or they've been digging a small pit in the sand, they sit on it and they bleed out into the earth. So this is what a lot of menstruators have been doing traditionally. And in the current situation, there are many of us who also like to do it. I do it a lot. And few tips I would definitely say to make free bleeding easy is, definitely start on a day when you have light bleeding. Okay, so you will not be feeling very conscious about, did I wet every place? And also, if possible, ensure that because if you're having too many people in your house and if you're not very comfortable sitting everywhere, ensure that you sit on a chair which can be easily wiped clean, even if it's stained. Or ensure you regularly put the same kind of a cloth or a cloth on the sofa or cushion when you sit on it. Ensure that you have this. I guess people do change their bed sheets once in a week, once in 2 weeks. So ensure that you use the old bed sheet, and then you're lying down when you're sleeping, you use that bed sheet or that cloth so that you bleed only onto it. And free bleeding, one more aspect is wear clothes which are darker in color so that you don't feel uncomfortable with seeing a lot of blood on your dress. Again, cotton cloths which are easily absorbable, which can easily absorb the blood, is also is also a good option to wear. And definitely, maybe especially in the beginning or even at a later stage also, if you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to free bleed when you go out. Do this only when you're comfortable. Not just this, any product should be done only when you're comfortable, but with free bleeding, I think the best way to do it would be to start off when you are when it's starting or when it's towards the end, so that the flow will be, yes, you'll be less and you'll be more comfortable to free bleed onto it. And definitely wash it with darker clothes so that none of the clothes pick up the blood stain, so you won't feel uncomfortable. And even if you feel that in a single wash your clothes is not, the stain hasn't completely gone, put it under direct sunlight. That takes out a lot of the stain. Maybe 1 or 2 more extra washes can completely take out the stain. And also ensure that especially when you are free bleeding, if you are a person who has a lot of cloths, that could be uncomfortable. So if you're having a lot of cloths, maybe you could also not directly bleed onto your dress, but maybe use a underwear which is comfortable, slightly thicker, so that the cloths can be caught and you can occasionally change it, or you can just remove the cloths and then continue wearing the same underwear. So these are few things which have worked in my favor to to go ahead and follow free bleeding. Yeah. Yeah, what type of garments? Dark cotton, and with especially with cloths, I guess wearing an underwear would also be an easier option. I guess there are no more discussions here. But thanks a lot for the amazing audience that you've been and supporting me with this discussion. Everyone who's talked and everyone who has written in the chat. Yeah, which is better to wash cloth pads. Yeah. We always suggest as a protocol to use cold water to wash the pads, soak the cloth pads or any cloth that you use in cold water for a few hours, and just cold water, no detergent, nothing else in it, just cold water. Give it a wash with a mild soap. So if you don't know what a mild soap is, or if you are unable to get a mild soap, at least don't use the detergent that you generally use to wash clothes. Use the one that you wash your body.
Sorry. So, what is the specific reason to prefer cold water versus hot water?
Yeah, because you don't want stains to catch onto the cloth. Because what happens is when you use hot water, that will actually bind the stain to the cloth. That will denature the protein in the blood, and that will bind the cloth, bind the blood to the cloth. Similarly, with harsh detergents also, they can also bind the blood stain to the cloth. So if I'm saying this primarily from a concern that people generally wouldn't want to have stains on their cloth or their cloth pad or their whatever cloth they're bleeding onto. And definitely dry it in sunlight. Sunlight actually bleaches the blood stain. Like if somebody has dropped turmeric on their dress and they've put it in sunlight, they know that turmeric goes away. Similarly, blood stain also goes away very easily. Maybe one or two washes and it completely goes away.
Thank you.
So you can definitely do that. So thanks a lot to the team from SUSTERA. Thanks a lot to team from SUSTERA for helping host this. And thanks a lot to Basil for hosting this. And thanks a lot to all of you who've been interacting. I'm sorry with the huge amount of technical glitches from my side. You've been a wonderful audience for me.
So let's wind up this session. Thank you, Kavya, for bringing an unconventional, unique, and sublime presentation. And thank you all from the bottom of my heart for your insights. Yeah. So yeah, let's wind up then.
And I would definitely ask you all check out all these people, Lakshmi Murthy, Satya, Rajasi. All of these people are amazing experts in this field of sustainable menstruation, have been working in this field for a very long time. So please check out them on social media, write to them, connect with them if you're really interested. Definitely, you can always write to me also. I'll definitely be happy to help. But I'm saying even all of these people also come with a lot of nuanced information. So I would really suggest all of you to connect with them also. Thank you. Basically, we are closing it, right?
Yes, we are closing the session. Yes.
Thank you.
All right then.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Yeah, so Rajasi is crazy and great menstruator. So she has put her Instagram. You can always connect to her, write to her.